Before I get into this discussion, I just want to review what three functions of money are. You have the medium of exchange, a store of value, and a unit of account. So there you have it. Store of value has got to have purchasing power. Unit of account has got to be consistent, demarcations, to be able to count. Medium of exchange, you actually use it to trade for other things, right? So in prison, cigarettes and ramen noodles are used as currency. So that's a medium of exchange. Ramen noodles and cigarettes are money in prison because unit of account, right? One cigarette, store of value, okay, so, and they're also commodities. So in some respects, cigarettes and ramen noodles are better backed money because they're actual commodities than the U.S. dollar is, which is backed by nothing, or maybe oil. Maybe oil was a commodity until it's crashing. So the Panic of 1837 versus the 1929 Great Depression. We could be looking at a Great Depression 3.0 coming up. 1929 Great Depression was actually the second Great Depression. What Americans called the Great Depression, we called the 1873 Depression the Great Depression. So there was already a Great Depression before the Great Depression. The Great Depression is the second Great Depression. So the 2020 lockdown, the unemployment rate looks like we're headed for a depression. So this would be the third Great Depression because it lasted for 12 years. 1929 Great Depression lasted for 12 years. The Panic of 1837 lasted for 7 years. So, all right, so let's get down to the causes of the 1929 Great Depression. It's, the 12-year depression, the worst jobless rate was in 1933, 25%. The causes of the 1929 Great Depression, you had an unaddressed August 1929 recession. You're going to have the October stock market crash 2 months later, but they didn't address the recession that had happened 2 months prior. Income inequality, which makes it harder for poor working-class people to compete against the 1%, plutocrats. An artificial boom with the roaring 20s had created an artificial bust. So Woodrow Wilson's corrupt 1913 Federal Reserve System. This would be the third Bank of America, Bank of the United States. And it fucked America over. It made the Great Depression worse. The monetary contraction policy of the Federal Reserve, they raised the federal rates during the August 1929 recession. This causes the overuse of credit because the money multiplier effect of the fractional reserve system of the Fed. You give $100 to the bank, they turn it into $1,000. How? The money multiplier effect. Magic, but the money multiplier effect. Typically, the money multiplier is 3 for banks, but they can, 10%, they can make up the less money that they save in their reserves, the bigger the money multiplier is. The more they could pass that money out to other people and pretend that, it was their money to begin with, to pass it out, and now they're learning it and making interest and what have you. So you had artificial boom creating an artificial bust. There was no People's Central Bank of the U.S. The Fed is a banker's bank created of and by and for the banker class. And we don't actually have a People's Central Bank. Andrew Jackson was halfway right when he stopped the Second Bank of America, but he didn't, finish it by getting a People's Bank of America that actually gives a shit about the people. We all have an account with the central bank. We're all in this together instead of it being more like an overlord. There is automation, 1929, that's causing unemployment, disruption of production. The Dawes Act, we gave loans to Germany. Their economy's collapsing, unregulated banking practices. Now, a lot of these, we're going to see a lot of the similar themes in the 1837 panic, the 7-year depression that happened right after Andrew Jackson's presidential term, right after he had shut the bank down. But that's because Nicholas Biddle was corrupt. So we had a corrupt bank in the 1837 panic, and we had a corrupt bank in the 1929 Great Depression. The Fed, it was a corrupt central bank. The automation, I think we're just going to have to, work with that and just, it frees dumb labor up, and so now we're getting smarter, and really we shouldn't be treating humans like robots anyways. Disruption of production, we should keep producing no matter what. You know, no matter what, if you have a rough time or if you got an easy time, you get up and you get your to-do list done. You write out what you're going to do and you get it done. Labor, work, it's the only way you're going to dig up out of your hole, or you're going to progress in any way. If you're on a mountain, it doesn't matter. You got to work. You got to do something. So if the deck is stacked against you, or whether or not you're a child of privilege, regardless, you're going to have to work. And you're not always going to get what you work for. You're not always going to get what you're owed or what you deserved. But you're going to have to work. I mean, the labor just keeps everything going. Even the pencil pushers have to push the damn pencil. So we should never disrupt production, the automation, the Dolls Act. Giving loans out to, countries we just defeated in war doesn't seem like a smart idea. Monopolistic pricing. You're getting these monopolies that are coming up. Unregulated banking practices. The gold standard hurt the U.S. dollar. So we had the Federal Reserve note. This is a major difference between 1929 America and 1837 America. There was no U.S. dollar in 1837. There was no national currency. The Second Bank of America had some banknote that they kind of used as a national currency, but it went bulk, right? It dissolved. So there was there was a Continental, there was a U.S. demand note with Abraham Lincoln, and then the Federal Reserve note of 1914 was, created right after the Federal Reserve System of 1913 was created by Woodrow Wilson, who's an elitist, segregationist, anti-free speech piece of shit, threw Eugene Debs in prison for 10 years for speaking out against World War I, said that the use of a hyphen is driving a dagger into the heart of America. So if you're a German American, then, you're basically killing white America. You're driving the dagger. He thought that the birth of a nation, right? And so Woodrow Wilson's an imperialist, low-life piece of shit, elitist, 1% class. Yeah, okay, I don't trust Woodrow Wilson, the guy with the top hat. I'm going to trust that man to, come up with the rules for the monetary policy for the People's Central Bank. He didn't come up with the People's Central Bank. He said it was decentralized. No, we just got 12 dirty dozen overlords instead of just one. We got one major overlord, and then we even have the FOMIC. So we got an overlord we got a Darth Vader, and we got a Emperor Palpatine. Gold standard hurt the U.S. dollar because gold was actually competing against the dollar at the time. But there was no U.S. dollar to speak of in 1837. It was silver and gold. Silver and gold coin. You had to pay for everything in silver and gold coin. And that's solid, hard, reliable currency. Nobody doubts that money and, silver and gold has value. Nobody doubts that it's got value as money. And for 2,000 years, gold standard is the gold. Gold is the gold standard for money. That's why people say the gold standard for this and for that. There was also the overproduction of durable goods such as toasters, washing machines, refrigerators, cars, and furniture. Somehow that, was terrible. Herbert Hoover, the president was an inept, incompetent douchebag, and that's also going to be the same with Martin Van Buren. So you got an inept, incompetent douchebag at the helm, right? Terrible education system. The common man didn't understand the U.S. financial system. That's true for 1837 and 1929 and today. The entire monetary system was a house of cards, a paper Ponzi pyramid scheme. True in 1929, true in 1837. There's segregation. So segregation didn't help with trade. Adam Smith said we need to reduce barriers to trade. Segregation was a step up from slavery of 1837. So this is the slave days, right, in 1837 to 1844. So 1929, Great Depression, 12 years, 1941 is when it ends. They say between both World War II and the New Deal, the combination, you only put $3 billion into the New Deal, and then you put $50 billion into the war. So if we would have put, just 10% of the money we spent for the war into the New Deal, there's no doubt in my mind it would have, helped hand over foot, hand over fist, I don't know, foot over elbow. It would have helped. It would have helped. So the New Deal, FDIC, even today, there's, deposit insurance. So if banks just lost their money, it was like, well, fuck you, we don't have your money, sorry. But now there's insurance, so if the bank does, go belly up, then there's an insurance company. You can at least recover $100,000, worth of your lost, savings. So no People's Central Bank, that's, true for both of the eras. Segregation, there's racism, there's hatred, there's income inequality. But, specifically for 1929, the August 1929 recession, you can't let a recession go by, right, without doing something about it. The Fed, it's corrupt, and it's the banker's bank, and it doesn't help the people. But also their actual specific monetary contraction policy hurt. They raised the federal funds rate during the recession, so that's awful. That's terrible, right? Jesus Christ. And then the overuse of credit had happened, prior to the roaring 1920s, right? Oh, we got all the money in the world, right? The Federal Reserve fractional system. We got a bank now. It's all fun. Installment loans, a low discount rate. So specifically, it's that recession, and the stock market crash is going to exacerbate the recession and cause it to go on for a decade. But, this is cyclical business cycle, so this is just, America has to reassess what we're doing and, do something else, do it better. This is our time to improve ourselves. What industries and what things aren't working and what things are working, let's keep the good, throw out the bad. Now, the causes of the Panic of 1837 was low cotton prices. So whereas it was an unaddressed recession, and then, Wall Street collapsing, the corrupt banks and income inequality, so really a lot of things are going on right there, right? Monopolistic pricing, the corporations running roughshod, the gold standard is hurting the U.S. dollar. There is no U.S. dollar in 1837. Andrew Jackson just stepped down. Martin Van Buren is his chosen successor. And now Martin Van Buren, 5 weeks into his presidency, is having to address cotton prices dropping 50% in 1837. And they're going to stay low well into the 1840s. So it's a 7-year depression, low cotton prices. The price of the cotton dropped 50%. The South depended on cotton as their main staple crop. Cotton is king. They needed cotton. The slaves harvested. They needed slaves to harvest the cotton. They needed the cotton to make the money. 1/3 of half of all the exports of the slave-owning South was cotton. So March 1837, Herman Briggs and Company, a major cotton commission house in New Orleans, declared bankruptcy, prompting the New York Bill Brokerage Company, Joseph's Banking Company, to go bankrupt too. And now you're going to have just lots of businesses, lots of banks, lots of workers just just go bunk. And this happened several times. It was in 1857 and in 1893. J. Cook Company, and then the 1857 was another investment firm. They collapsed, and that big, too big to fail bullshit. I'm very skeptical of the reasons for the Great, Depression being the stock market crashing. How perfect for Wall Street. Oh, shit, Wall Street's for the 1%, but if Wall Street collapses coming, people, that means it's going to be bad for you, too. Not necessarily. It doesn't have to. One does not mean the other. It's actually good that these banks, corrupt private capital banks, these rich assholes. We need as many banks to collapse, and we need Wall Street to collapse, and we need to shut down the Fed. Every 10 years, we need to just shut it all down and restart it up. That's how capitalism is supposed to work. But monopolies, people get entrenched, and it's just, old school shit doing the same shit. The monetary system is a house of cards, a paper Ponzi pyramid scheme. So in 1929, that's the Federal Reserve note. In 1837, it's, only silver and gold as currency. The United States Bank is gone, and so now it's up to the states to print up this paper banknotes. They print up all these paper banknotes, and, they had no morals or scruples nor regulations. Just printed up a shit ton of banknotes. So the entire monetary system of 1837 and 1929 is a house of cards, a total paper Ponzi pyramid scheme. It was the state banknotes in 1837, and it was, the Federal Reserve notes in 1929. The entire, that doesn't help. That leads to the Depression, right? Wait a second. Our entire money system is, based on nothing? It's a house built on sand? Well, are you kidding? So Joseph's, again, just like 1857 Jay Cook Company, one investment company, and then it just, Lehman Brothers collapsed, and then they freaked out, but they let them die. But Joseph's Banking Company is going to go bankrupt. Herman Briggs and Company first went bankrupt. It was a major cotton commission house in New Orleans, and then that caused the New York Bill Brokerage Company, Joseph's Banking Company, to go bankrupt. And then that's when the shit hit the fan. Planters planted too much cotton. There's a big-ass cotton bubble, and now this is going to be the worst depression for America at that time. This is the Great Depression for America at the time in 1837. The credit system of the U.S. is going to collapse after an artificial boom was created. The exact same thing in 1929. 90% of the factories are shut down on the East Coast. 15% of New York City is unemployed. 9 out of 10 banks, 9 out of 10 businesses were closed in the city of Mobile. Cotton is king. After cotton collapsed, federal and state government improvements stopped. They had no money. They had taxes. They got the taxes from the cotton. So cotton price is going low. The fact that the dollar, the American economy, not the dollar, we didn't have the dollar back then, so the American banknote, American silver and gold, we collapsed. We didn't have a dollar, so we needed a dollar at the time, and we needed a people's bank. So it's going to, stay low well into the 1840s. 7-year depression. 1837 panic killed many poor people. Not only do poor people have, harder for them to compete in the marketplace, but they're dying. Poor people have a death sentence, starvation, hypothermia, immunosuppression. They're dying of sickness. They're freezing to death. They're starving to death. And Buffalo, New York economy is completely destroyed, even what little educational system that they had. And there was no education system back then, so the American people were getting duped once again by the chicanery of the financial elite, by the 1%, by the plutocrats. Oh, commercial paper, oh, okay, sure. Credit default swaps, derivatives, oh, okay, yeah, I'm down. Liquidity, yeah, I understand all that. Sure, yeah, we got to give AIG billions of dollars. I don't know, just because you say so. Okay, all right, sure, I'll just take your word for it. 1841, 1842, Florida, Mississippi, Arkansas, Indiana, Illinois, Maryland, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Louisiana all declared bankruptcy. And so it's hard to, some people say there wasn't even a panic or depression. Well, it started in 1837, right? That's when the cotton prices are going to collapse. 1841, 1842, we're already 5 years into the damn thing, and entire states are declaring bankruptcy. Hey, Floyd, can you pay in your bills? Mississippi, Arkansas, Indiana, Illinois, Maryland, Michigan, Louisiana, Pennsylvania. No. This is pissing off the, Bank of England. This is why Bank of England isn't going to loan any money out. We're going to blame the Bank of England because they stopped loaning out to, all these damn states who, clearly don't know how to run a balanced budget, run a government with a balanced budget. Arkansas, Florida, Michigan, Mississippi, they're going to default on $14 million worth of debt. So the Bank of England doesn't want to, give out credit? Of course not. The state banks are what fucked America up. So the corruption of the state banks. If we had a People's Bank, that would have been better, right? That would have been good. If we had American dollar, that would have been good too. But we had silver and we had gold. That's good, sound, reliable, stable, hard currency. So we had a currency system. And, by having the free banking system, there was no national, so that's a consistent federal policy, right? The federal policy is it's up to your banks, to the states, right? There's also over-speculation, right? These stupid, foolish investment state bankers on Western lands. Kentucky, Tennessee, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois are Western lands at the time. Land bubbles out of control. So you got a cotton bubble, you got a land bubble. You got a lot of bubbles, busting, right? Poor banking practices. They're printing up banknotes in general. No deposit insurance, right? Just like in 1929, there was no deposit, no FDIC. The state banks maintained unsafe reserve ratios, so they weren't saving any silver and gold or any of the money, right? Money multiplier effect. They took your money and they lent it all out. They saved nothing. They didn't have sufficient capital requirements, excess reserves. So when people started saying, give me my money, then, oh, shit, we actually have no money here. So, that's a bank run. Oh, shit, the bank is bankrupt, and now everybody runs to the bank to take all their money out, so they're not just bankrupt a little, they're bankrupt by a lot. You also had slavery, so you had entire white, supremacist culture, a dictatorship, white supremacist dictatorship. It wasn't fair competition, for anybody, really. It wasn't fair competition for the working class. How can you compete with free, competition for one's own creative labor power in the free market? You have to be an independent, autonomous, individual. Slavery is terrible for the economy, and most especially for the slave. They cannot sign any true blue contract that they actually truly believe in. A prisoner or a slave, they're under duress just by the position of, that they're in society. So, poor education, no public schools. Most Americans are stupid. The financial chicanery and the banker jargon they're, falling for. We just got public education in 1929, but, it's authoritarian, and it's just about, obey and shut the hell up. So that's still true today. Silver-tongued bankers spitting their bullshit. Ask people, the American people, what they think about TARP. What do they think about the, 2008 Wall Street bailout? We just did another Wall Street bailout for 2020. Do you have any opinions whatsoever for the 2008 Wall Street bailout? America, do you have any opinion? Did you, did it work? Was it good? Was it a great idea? Well, Bush and everybody said that, it saved them. They did fine. Yeah, well, what about the 5 million people that lost their homes? What about the, 8 million, 10, 13 million unemployed people? So, yeah, spitting bullshit jargon fooled a bunch of American commoners, and if Americans were actually educated, if Americans actually understood the financial system of America, there would be a revolution by morning. But we, as collectively, we don't know this, and so we're not like, hey, what the hell? The Second Bank of America was corrupt. Nicholas Biddle, he's actually going to start a mini-recession in 1833. And so this is actually very important because this is the Bank of America intentionally starting a recession. And so perhaps the 1837 recession was the cause of this little mini-recession that Nicholas Biddle had started in 1833, just after Andrew Jackson got reelected on, the promise that he's going to kill the bank. He started it on purpose to punish the American people. Nicholas Biddle is going to start a mini-recession in America on purpose to punish the American people to show how much we need him and his, God-forsaken bank. So Andrew Jackson is vindicated because Nicholas Biddle is a corrupt piece of shit. The Second Bank of America was corrupt. They fucked America over just to, force us into compliance. So is Nicholas Biddle the king? Are we supposed to bow down to, what was that one quote? I don't care not who makes the laws. Let me control the money supply, and I'll control the whole country or some shit Rothschild quote. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about the politics. Let me control the economy. If I control your economics, shit, you can make all the damn laws and start all the damn wars you want. I'll just control the economy. So Andrew Jackson was absolutely right to destroy the Second Bank of the United States. Andrew Jackson was 100% right to destroy the Second Bank of the United States. It was corrupt as shit. It was, of the banker class, for and by the bankers. And so because Nicholas Biddle showed that, there's no way you can actually look at that and say that Andrew Jackson was wrong. What Andrew Jackson could have done better is he could have, done a people's bank, but he wanted to do, try his experiment. We wanted states' rights, where a union, a confederation of states, let the state banks print up any paper money if they want paper money. Basically, paper money was useless because it was just silver and gold. And that's good, solid, reliable currency. So he wasn't wrong in, really his U.S. monetary system. But what he was wrong with is that he gave it up to the states. He let the states dictate what they wanted to, and then they were corrupt. And so he was right to destroy the Second Bank of America. I think having the U.S. dollar and a People's Bank of America in general is a good idea. And so he could have done those things, but you have to, stop the bank first. That's the first process, right? But it was the state banks that created this, house of cards, paper Ponzi pyramid scheme, the monetary, system. The free banking era, they had, rights to do what they wanted to. They had laissez-faire for private banks. This is a golden age for capitalism. For 70 years, this is the free banking era. So these are the banks just, being greedy, giving lots of credit and getting scared, squeezing everybody else, and making everybody else drown. So just like in 1819, the panic, then the banks won and the people lost. And that's consistent throughout, every time. Here in 1837, the cotton prices dropped. So the small cotton farmer lost his farm. He had to be, do something else, just have 1 or 2 acres. Or he had to be a sharecropper to the big slave owners. So it made the Andrew Jacksons, you know, the slave-owning, plantation-owning sons of bitches, the 1% class of the South, they became more rich, and so there's a consolidation of wealth and power. We just saw that with the 2020 Wall Street bailout. So there's a consolidation of wealth and power during these depression and panics. So whereas, you know, Wall Street and these rich fuckers act like they're scared to death, they also see depressions and panics as an opportunity. This is when prices are going to go very low, 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 low. It's going to be bad for wages, right? A lot of deflation. You're going to be working for $1 an hour now, and you're going to go and pay, you know, $5 for a loaf of bread. So you're going to have deflation of wages, inflation of prices. So there is no People's Central Bank of the U.S. We still don't have a People's Central Bank of the United States. There wasn't a U.S. dollar. We do have a U.S. dollar. The Federal Reserve note is the U.S. dollar. We could actually have a U.S. dollar currency, the money for American people. That comes out of the People's Central Bank instead of a bank note, instead of it being a fiat debt note. Oh, here's a fiat debt note. Oh, thanks, I guess. Do I owe the debt? Do you owe the debt? Who owes this debt? Why is this? I have debt in my, this is just a piece of paper. It doesn't even have, you're telling me not only does it not have intrinsic value for itself, it's not a commodity, but it's negative money? You gave me negative money? Get your negative money out of here. Give me some barrels of oil. You're going to give me $40 in the barrels of oil. Keep your negative, debt fiat paper. So there's a U.S. dollar, but it's basically banknotes, too. There's confidence. I mean, I have confidence in the U.S. dollar. So I think the U.S. dollar, it would have been a good thing for, Andrew Jackson's time, and a People's Central Bank is good if it's done right. On paper it's good. But the banker and the 1%, the rich people, and they do all these goddamn, financial elitist jargon bullshit things and just confusing everybody to put more money, fuck everybody else and put more money in their goddamn pockets. Oh, a credit default swap. Oh, yeah, sure, give you money, and then overnight, and then you pay back, and just, what are we doing here? Liquidity? Last but not least, Martin Van Buren was a big, so 1929, this is Herbert Hoover, right? He was a douchebag. Martin Van Buren was a douchebag, too. Martin Van Buren, immediately, he's got, he spent, $3,000 on the White House lawn for landscaping, right? So you have this panic, this depression, this 7-year depression setting in, and the president, spends $3,000 on landscaping for the White House lawn. He believed in free market capitalism. He refused government intervention, no emergency relief, nor public projects, nothing whatsoever. So Martin Van Buren did the exact same shit that Herbert Hoover is going to be. They're both free market capitalists, not spending emergency relief, not giving stimulus money, not, passing out $1,200 checks or unemployment or public projects or nothing, right? Now let's just let the market fix itself. The market will fix itself, right? The laissez-faire free banking era. I think it's still the laissez-faire free banking era. We got the Fed, but they're more regulating us than they are the bank. They're not regulating the banks. Nobody's regulating the bank. If the Fed is regulating the banks, nobody's regulating the banks. So yeah, Martin Van Buren, right? $3,000 on landscaping. Worst depression for America at the time. You know what I almost spent $3,000 on? Some flowers, some pretty tulips and roses. Let them plant roses. So there you go. That's the Panic of 1837 versus the Great Depression of 1929. There's lots of, similarities and differences. American economy in 1929 wasn't just, hitched on one commodity. It wasn't just hitched onto cotton. I guess in a way, maybe it was pegged to gold. So perhaps if something happened to gold, then the dollar would have gone down because there was a gold standard. So, the dollar was pegged to gold. And I think at first you do have to do that just so people say, this dollar ain't worth shit. Fuck you, give me gold. And it's like, hey, this dollar actually, I'll give you, sure, you want some gold? Give me that dollar. Here's your gold. No problem, see, no problem. You got $1, you want a gold, I gave you the gold, I got the dollar. No problem, I'm good on my word. This IOU is good. This money is legit. I also think the panic was interesting that whole states failed in 1929 Great Depression. There wasn't whole states that failed. There was, 25% unemployment in, banks and individuals, but I don't ever hear of, Georgia. Georgia just declared bankruptcy. Maryland, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Louisiana, Illinois, Indiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Florida, 1841, 1842, they all declared bankruptcy. They're insolvent. They couldn't pay their bills. They went bankrupt. So, yeah, there's income inequality for both things. There's segregation versus slavery. Still